This is going to be an update to one of my most popular videos, which is how to combine multiple files from a SharePoint or OneDrive folder. Now we're going to focus on OneDrive because the link that you need has slightly changed, but the same thing works for SharePoint. And also I'm going to do this in Excel, but again, you can apply exactly the same technique in Power BI. And over the years, I've learned a few different techniques for debugging, for flagging errors, for handling sheets with different names and things. I'm just going to run through a few of those techniques as well. So hopefully this is my updated ultimate guide. All right, let's go. So the aim here is to consolidate all these files. And I've made my life a little bit harder because this file down here has a different sheet name to all the others. Okay, all the others, I've got sheet 1 with all their data. This one's called something else. I've also got an empty file as well, just to show you what happens there. Okay, and if you're connecting to OneDrive, and really you should probably be using SharePoint because OneDrive is your personal folder. So if you're building a report for the business, set up your files in a SharePoint folder. Okay, but there can be reasons that you can't do that. So if you are using OneDrive, I've noticed recently this link is changing. Okay, it used to be that you could copy part of this, but you can't anymore. So the way to connect here now is you go to the folder that you want to connect to and you pop out this details panel and you scroll down and here's the path. Okay. So this is also the way if you want to connect to an individual file, you use the From Web connector. Okay, you click on the little 3 dots against the file, or actually click on the tick, doesn't really matter. Either go down to details, or again, pop out the side panel, scroll down and get the path. That's if you're connecting to one file, use the From Web connector, and that path, it gets copied there. Okay, so if I go back to my folder, and come down and copy this path, what do I then do with it? Okay. And by the way, if you are connecting to a SharePoint folder, then you can still happily do the same thing, do it the same way, but ultimately all you want when you're connecting with SharePoint is this bit up to here. Okay. You don't want anything after the site name. You don't want any of this shared document stuff. You just want up to that part there when you're using From folder. Okay, so I am going to go into Excel. I'm going to get data from file from SharePoint folder, whether it's SharePoint or OneDrive, doesn't matter. And this is just OneDrive for business, okay, not OneDrive personal. And Control V. And the thing you need, you do not want everything past or anything from this Word documents onwards. Okay, you just want it up to this, which is essentially would be your email address or something that looks a bit like your email address. I've got a dummy account set up called Pro User. Okay, so that is all you need. And then you click OK. And in theory, you then should be asked to sign in with your Microsoft account. So Microsoft account, sign in. I'll then just put my password in. Okay, so I've put my password and everything in, sign in, connect. And you should then see a massive list of everything that's in your personal, your OneDrive folder, and go transform data. Then you could start filtering for your folder using the little drop down here or trying to scroll down. It's a horrible process and it can be really slow. So my recommendation is change this to SharePoint.Contents. And you get a different experience. Now, if you are going to be having other people refresh this, which again, if it's in your OneDrive, it's not a great idea. Try and put it in SharePoint folder. Then people need access to the whole path if you're going to do it this SharePoint.Contents way. If you're If you can't grant access to the full path, which would be difficult with your OneDrive, then use the old method, SharePoint.Files. Okay. Right, we're then going to go into the documents. So click on the word table. I'm then going to go into the folder called YouTube. Again, click on the word table. And then going to go into the file to consolidate. Click on the word table. And here's my files that I want to consolidate. Perfect. Stop there. This is my next tip. So stop there, change this to OneDrive. A quick bonus tip. So this navigation step contains all the drilling down to the folder levels, but I like to split it out to make it more obvious what folders I've gone through and therefore easier to change if one of those subfolders change. So quick tip, go to your source, right click, insert step after, choose insert, and magically there's your drill down levels, documents, YouTube, files to consolidate. Great, just rename this as path or something like that. It's not doing anything, but magically it splits out all these other steps. All right, let's get back to it. Then the next step is to right click on this OneDrive query and reference it. The reason for doing that is that it's then easy to change this OneDrive connection, and everything else that subsequently happens will all link back to that, so you only have to change it in one place. Really future-proofs it. Okay, this one is going to be called consolidation. And all we're going to do is click the double-headed arrow. Now, before you do, just make sure that the first file here is one of the ones with the normal sheet name. Okay, if it's not your sort of ideal file, then either remove it from the folder temporarily or just do a filter it out or whatever. I'm just going to go right click and sort maybe descending so that this file's here. You can always turn this off in a second, this sorted step or this filtering step, but you really want to start with the perfect file as the first one. I'll show you why in a second. Okay, then we click the double-headed arrow to combine the files, and Power Query will start building us some helper queries. And it'll prompt us for what the sheet name is. And this is why I've made sure that first file, see it says first file, and then it says sheet 1. Okay, you really, you can change this. Like say I had this one. Notice when I do this, it'll say different sheet name because that's what I named the sheet. So you can pick a specific file, but I find that hard codes it into various spots in the formulas, and then if that file doesn't exist in the future, just not worth it. So just go for first file. Keeps things simple. Okay, sheet 1, right click, transform. And then it builds us these helper queries and the consolidation. But look, department H, every file's got 3 rows of data. Okay, only 3. But it does it and then it stops, error. So why does it do that? Well, if I go back up to the sorted rows or the sorted row step up here, okay, department H was my first one, but then department G's got the wrong sheet name. So if I go to this invoke custom functions step, which I'll explain in a second, over on the right, you can see it hits the error and then it just stops. So that's not great. So we're going to do 2 things. Number 1, we're going to build a query that actually flags the errors. So if you're doing this on lots of files, you can just go, oh, that's the error file. And also then filter that out. And also, more importantly, stop the error happening in the first place. Okay, so let's just quickly build an error capture query. So all I'm going to do is right click on consolidation and duplicate that. And this is going to be called my errors. By the way, I just press F2 to edit my names. I'm an F2 person, but you can always right click or you can always double click here to edit as well. Okay, so there's errors, and essentially I want to go up to the step after invoke custom function and delete all these steps, which you can do with just one right click, delete until end. Okay, so I'm going to keep the invoke custom function because that's the one that flags there's this error. Okay, and I'm going to highlight this column and go keep rows, keep errors. So that'll just keep the errors. Scroll across, right click on the name column, remove other columns. So there's your files that have errors in. And now I've done that, I can go back to my consolidation. I can go back to the invoke custom function step. And now I can basically get rid of the errors because I've already captured which files they are. So I can click on here and do remove rows, remove errors. Insert. Okay, and now when I click on the bottom step, beautiful, all working. Department H, Department F, Department D. Even the one with empty data is just showing nulls. Great, okay. So that's my consolidation working and my errors showing. How do I fix it? What's causing the error and what is this invoke custom function? Well, here we have transform sample file. This is the magic file that creates this little function. So this, not file, sorry, query. This query is linked to that, basically creates, without you doing anything, creates and is linked inherently to that transform sample file function. It's this function that's created. And all that function is a little summary of these steps. Okay. It's basically this query turned into a function that can run against every file. So any sort of transformations I do to this sample file automatically get turned to this function, which then automatically, at this point here, and here's the error because it can't find a particular sheet. So if we go back to the transform sample file, we can see it basically goes to the first workbook. Parameter 1 was just first workbook. It navigates to sheet 1, okay? And that's where your issue is, okay? And then it promotes the headers. So the only way to fix this really, I guess easily, there's probably other techniques, but if the sheet you need to consolidate is always the first sheet or is always the second sheet, then this is an easy fix. If not, I guess there's probably some crazy techniques to scan through a list of things and try different sheet names or something like that, or sheet contains or something. But the simplest way is you simply get rid of this, because what this is saying, okay, is item is sheet 1, kind is sheet. So if we go back here, it's saying item is sheet 1, kind is sheet. Whereas all we really need to say is, look, grab the first table you come across from the data column. So if I go back to the navigation and I come in here and I say, okay, let's just go source data. Okay, and I just want the first item, so which is record 0, curly brackets for records. Okay, or first item in a list, essentially. Because it's 0-based Power Query, starts at 0 for the first record, first item in a list, 1 for the second item in a list. Okay, press enter. You're now not referring to any sheet name, but you are grabbing the first sheet. Okay, if you were always grabbing the second sheet, you would put a 1 there. It does rely on that first sheet. Often the case though, if it's just an export, it's only got one sheet in it. Promote the headers. Okay, and now because we aren't referring to any sheets, if we go to our errors, it should be empty. No files. And if we go to our consolidation, department G with the wrong sheet name is just there. Okay, great. It's all working. Okay, so then what do we want to do? Well, we're pretty much there, apart from, if I go back to my transform sample file, I then have a closer look. First of all, my months are all in columns. Secondly, somebody's put a random April in here, okay, which I need to fix up, and also May's in twice. And you really need to unpivot this. You shouldn't have separate months in separate columns for doing analysis. So I am going to right click on this code column, and this is in my sample file. Okay, unpivot other columns. Great. I'm actually going to, let's say I've asked around and it should never be April, so I'm going to right click, text filter, does not equal. It's going to get rid of all the Aprils. It should never be the 2nd May, so right click, text filter, does not equal. Okay, you've got to know your business logic and how safe that is to do it that way. You might have to be a bit smarter about what you're filtering out. But that now is all good. And I'm going to rename this as month. And now when I go to my consolidation, more errors. But normally this one's a really simple fix. It's just this change type step because it's trying to run against these various hard-coded column references. And as soon as you delete this change type step, there we go, department H, scroll down, department G, and we've got a beautiful code column, a beautiful month, and a beautiful value column. I'm just going to click on a cell, Control A, to select all the columns, transform detect data type. Okay, so it's done it text, whole number. Is that right? Do you need to change it to a decimal maybe? Depends. Okay, but for me, that'll do nicely. And finally, we now just need to load these two. Now in Power BI, you can right click and say disable load. Well, there's a button that says enable load. Sadly, Excel doesn't have that. You can't not load this in this screen. So what you have to do in Excel is home, close and load 2, and then choose connection only to start with. So only create connection. Now you can load it to the data model if you're doing Power Pivot stuff, but don't do that yet, okay? Don't do that yet. Just leave only create connection. Click OK. And then all the connections load down the right-hand side. And the only ones I want to load is this consolidation and this errors. So let's do the errors first. Right click, load to. Let's just do a table in an existing worksheet just here. Click OK. That's showing as empty data as an issue. Okay, we'll go and take a look at that in 1 second. And then right click on consolidation, load to. And again, where do we want to load it? Maybe the data model, maybe just a table. And again, I'll just go existing worksheet. You could go new worksheet for this. Click OK. There we are, there's our lovely data. Okay, so this is rightly showing up as an error. I wasn't really thinking about it, the fact that I'll show you why it's an error in a second, but it's good to flag it. But I'd also like to add a description about why it's the error, to capture the error message. So here we go. All right. You're not going to be lucky enough for your file to be named contains empty data, right? So what we're going to do is go back to the errors query, and it's erroring out because, let's go and show you why it's doing it. So if I go to the consolidation and go to the invoke custom function and scroll across to the right, see here's the error, and if I click next to it, the expression column code wasn't found. So back here, when we transform the sample file, we added this unpivot step, which relies on selecting the code column and unpivoting everything else. Now, if a file is blank, that's going to break, right? It just can't do that. So I want to capture that as an error. So I'm going to go back to the errors sheet here, and I said removed other columns. Well, I'm actually going to bring back the transform file column, which is the one that had the error in. And essentially, I want to be able to try and get this error. The column code wasn't found. Now, it's a bit weird. Here we go. We go add column, custom column. And let's call this error message equals. Now, weirdly, you have to do this. Try and get the transform file. Okay, click OK, watch what happens. You now get a record. And I can expand this record to bring out the error. And then I can expand this error, weirdly not reason, message. Let's bring back reason as well, just to show you. Okay, and click OK. So the reason, expression error, don't really need that. So I'm going to go back here, untick reason. It's not very helpful. But here's my message. The column code of the table wasn't found. Beautiful. I can then right-click and remove the transform file. And there's my error message. Home, close and load. And there we have a nice bit of error handling. Okay, hope you find that useful. Let me know what you think in the comments. Check out the brand new training course I've got out on Power BI. If you're coming from Excel, want to learn Power BI, I've got a brand new online course just for you. Okay, links in the description below. Catch you in the next video. Before you go, check out one of my other videos or playlists and click the subscribe button. Thanks for watching.